Hey, welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake. This week we have an interview with Rob Guillory. He's here to talk about his new Image comic series, Farmhand, out in comic book stores everywhere on Wednesday, July 11th. But, let's let Rob talk all about it. And you know what? You'll also get Chris talking about his recent trip to Sin City, and Jake might have a word or two about Preacher. And joining us this week, we have Rob Guillory, the creator, writer, and artist of the new Image Comics horror series Farmhand, out in comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology if you're more digitally inclined on Wednesday, July 11th. Also the co-creator and artist of Chew. And Rob, didn't you also do the New Day backups for WWE?
Oh, I totally did. You're like one of two people that knows about that.
Ooh. No, that's a different tag team.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
They had a great rivalry.
But yeah, Rob, thanks for coming on, man.
Oh yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So, I feel like Farmhand comes from a more personal place than the New Day and then Chew for you because, you're from Louisiana. The book takes place in Louisiana. You used to be a farmhand. This book, clearly follows a farmhand. Very family-centric. You're a family man. So, yeah, was it all kind of like all these like disparate personal elements that you wanted to channel into one book?
I think, it's definitely not biographical, but at the same time, I was in such a different place when I started Chew. When I started Chew, we didn't have any kids yet. My wife and I were only married about a year at that point. I was, I think, 25 or 26 at the time. So I was kind of a young guy. And over the course of Chew, so much life happened. We had 3 kids during the course of Chew. By the time we ended Chew, we had been married 10 years. So much stuff had happened, and I was just kind of sideswiped by Chew, by the success of Chew, that I really hadn't had time to really deal and cope with being a parent and what that meant, because I was so busy with the Chew work schedule and just, this whole whirlwind thing that kind of swept me away. So I think Farmhand is me coping with a lot of the things I've experienced in the 8 years or 10 years since we started Chew. With the new family thing and all the terrors and the fear that kind of comes along with that, the reality that, that the choices I make, as a man myself, ultimately, crazy decisions I make, not even, thinking it'll affect no one, can ultimately come back on my kids in really odd ways. And that's totally terrifying. That's the most terrifying thing ever. And I think Farmhand is coping with some of that. So yeah, it's definitely drawings from some very personal stories, but a lot of it's definitely not biographical, but it's definitely coming from a very familiar place, if that makes sense.
Totally. And I would hope it is not autobiographical, man. You've got like basically the Willy Wonka of Frankenstein's, with this book, with all the literal body farms and everything.
Yeah.
What was it that made you kind of wanted to tell a more sanguine tale, involving, because the superficial observation is that, this both kind of involves agriculture on some degree like Chew, but instead of poultry, you're dealing with human body parts. Like it's a very, like, imagery wise, it's perhaps a much more graphic book.
Yeah. I think what's odd about it is that it's funny. Like the idea came to me when we were wrapping up Chew. We always knew Chew would be 60 issues. So in 2016, it hit me in January of that year. Like, holy crap! Like this is the year that this 8-year odyssey comes to an end. And I totally freaked and I panicked because like I said, so much has changed since Chew started. I haven't, like I said, when we got started, we didn't have a whole lot of responsibility. It was just me and my wife. And, we had gained all this weight, this responsibility to our kids during that time that, I freaked out at the prospect of being unemployed. So basically I was really scrambling, trying to come up with something. And I couldn't find anything that I was really passionate about. And then when I had given up all hope, I was just kind of going about my business, not even thinking about it. And this image popped into my head. and it was this picture of a tree with human limbs growing off of it. And it was this really creepy graphic thing that just popped into my head. And then from there, it just, the body part farming, organic, the organic farmer who grows human organs immediately popped up. And, it's funny, like whenever I used to get ideas, I was one of those guys that would always go to Google immediately. Mm-hmm. And I would Google the idea and see, if there's anything like it. And it would always kill my idea because there was always something ultimately kind of like it. So it would just derail everything and I would give up and be depressed. Mm-hmm. And with this, I just really liked the idea from the beginning. Before I even got into the more personal elements of it, I really liked the metaphor of reaping what you sow, of planting a seed and watching how it grows up and what it grows up into. And the surprise of, and sometimes the terror of when it grows into something you don't want it to grow into. So that kind of came out, and it just kind of grew from there. But what's odd about it is I didn't realize until a year into working on it, my wife looks at me and she said, it's funny, you do realize your senior thesis, I was a painting major, but my senior thesis was actually paintings of human beings as plants. And this was, 15 years ago. And I completely forgotten that I've actually been percolating on this idea way longer than I even realized. And what's funny is even over that time in the 15 years since, before I even started working on Chew, or shortly after I started working on it, my wife and I would just watch these documentaries. My wife is a foodie, and I was not a foodie. I actually had a really bad relationship with food from like a very young age. And, I totally identify with the Tony Chu character, like absolutely. But we started watching all these documentaries about farming and about bioengineering of food and things like that. How basically, I forget what documentary we had watched, but it was focusing on how scientists were bioengineering chickens and livestock to basically grow larger to feed more people. And I remember this really graphic scene of these giant chickens that they were growing. They were so fat and just they were so massive that they couldn't actually walk. So they were dying in the yard. And I just remember thinking, like people are actually eating this thing. How crazy is that? Like that's insane. Mm-hmm. And I read more things kind of along that line for years, and all of that kind of came into play whenever I was making Farmhand. So all of these ideas of, kind of the Jurassic Park, Ian Malcolm kind of thing, where he says, you're so fascinated with what you could do, you never actually stop to think if you should do it. That is the heart of Farmhand, and it's an old story. It's Frankenstein. But it's a new twist with the Farmhand thing. So that's a long explanation for kind of the genesis of where this thing came from.
We've had Lehman on a couple times, and he was always saying that like Chew came from like all these like weird just ideas, all these weird separate ideas that he had, and it almost kind of became a running joke in the industry, like him trying to pitch Chew everywhere, and everyone just kind of be like, "Oh, it's that weird chicken book by Lehman." Until like Stevenson finally greenlit it. I have to ask, as a complete tangent, have you seen the new Jurassic World movie yet?
Oh man, we actually watched it. My wife and I barely ever get out for movies anymore, and everyone had been telling me how bad it was, but I didn't care. I was like, we had a date, we had a babysitter. It's like screw it, like at this point I could watch just about anything, and I'm just excited to get out of the house for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, we saw it like 2 nights ago, actually.
Oh, what'd you think?
I mean,
it's a glowing endorsement if I ever heard one.
Yeah, I mean, it was, man. I mean, it really went sideways there. I mean, it really wasn't a Jurassic Park movie. Not in the way that, I remember Jurassic Park movies. I mean, the idea, I think Ian Malcolm in the movie is completely correct. He's in line with what the attitude of a Jurassic Park has always been, which is the dinosaurs should not exist.
Yeah.
So it was funny that there were actually the dinosaur activists, and really the entire plot of the movie was trying to keep these things alive when obviously they should not exist. So it was interesting.
I remember, you were speaking influences and kind of how Jurassic Park, at least the good one, because they're really, let's be honest, there's only one good Jurassic Park movie, right?
I was actually okay with the first Jurassic World.
Yeah, okay. but
There's like Force Awakens, Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Nostalgia sells, man.
It does. We're about to see Halloween in a couple months. That's basically the Force Awakens of slasher movies. The new Halloween, anyway. But I remember, when you and I were talking for the magazine, speaking inspirations, were you a big horror guy growing up? Because there, both in this and Chew, there is definitely some horrific imagery.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's I was the kid who was like exposed to entirely too much horror way too early. Oh, yeah. I used to. I mean, my parents just didn't think about that. So like I saw. I remember watching Psycho at a really young age. I remember watching Halloween at a really young age. I mean, I had an uncle who was actually the uncle who got me into comics, who was a huge like Hellraiser fan. Mm-hmm. So like I saw all this stuff entirely too early, and I think it left a mark. But yeah, I like elements of horror, and there's certain things like I like campy horror. Like I like Cabin Fever. Sure. Is actually one of my favorites. It's so silly and just fun. 28 Days Later is another one that's a big favorite of mine. Psycho, pretty much all the Psycho movies I'm a fan of. And there's other things. But I mean, mostly I'm not really into just horror for horror's sake. Like, I mean, my wife and I in the early part of our marriage, we used to just watch movies all the time. And I remember we went through all the Saw movies, and it just got so stupid. I mean, I just remember like the entire thing was about inventing new ways to tear people limb from limb. Yeah. And I just remember watching it, like at some point we stopped, I think it was Saw 3. We just stopped mid-movie and just looked at each other and thought, like, what the hell are we doing? What are we watching? So I think horror as a device, to really ask some real questions, I think is where I'm coming from. Sure. I mean, the horror in Farmhand is definitely like I don't really look at Farmhand as a horror book, but I think that there's an underlying kind of dread and this underlying thing that's kind of hanging over the characters that makes it horrific. If that makes any sense.
Right. It's almost the relationship between fathers and sons, and this son not necessarily wanting to get into the family business and the family business just happens to be like super bloody and like involve human body parts.
Right. And I mean, there's more coming, I'll say that, in terms of the horror tone. There's some pretty, specifically in issue 5. Issue 5 is the end of the first arc. And there's a few scenes in particular that I've been building to that I think will surprise people in terms of, or maybe they won't surprise them, because I do start off issue 1 with a pretty graphic dream sequence that's pretty horrific right from the get-go. Mm-hmm. But there's some more coming in issue 5 that I think really will cement that, this is a fun book. It's I think of it more in terms of being a family drama probably than being a horror book. But I just wanted to leave the window open to really go as dark and scary as I wanted to go, because I knew there were some scenes, and particularly the antagonist of the entire thing. I knew with that character it needed to be a horror book to even be able to work with that character.
How is the transition to, you're pulling double duty on this book. That's got to be like the most like intimidating and increased workload like on earth, suddenly doubling up on what you do.
Well, I mean, I'm working pretty far ahead, and I'm working like I'm just leaving myself a lot of space. I mean, I realized when I finished Shoe that I would never want to do a monthly book ever again. Like I knew that, we were never quite monthly with Chew, but I think the most we ever did was 10 issues in 10 months, which was the very first arc, which almost killed me. And then after that, I think we usually did about 8 issues a year. And that was really intense. And I think at this point with Farmhand, I'll be content to do, probably closer to 7 issues a year, realistically.
Right.
But I'm basically just giving myself as much time as I need to do the work that I'm happy with. So I think with this, with the first arc, I basically worked on this all last year after I finished Chew. I took a good 3 months off and did nothing but write the first 5 issues. And then I went into the art and everything. Yeah. But I think, as it is now, I'm working on issue 5. I'm drawing issue 5 right now. And I'll be done penciling and inking that probably end of this month, beginning of next month. And then after that, I'm going immediately into the writing, which actually this past week, I spent pretty much the entire week just like actually getting into the nitty gritty of what each issue of the second arc is going to be. Yeah. I am working from an outline. So like I have a definite ending I'm working toward, and I'm planning somewhere between, I mean, if the sales are there to support it, I'm thinking probably 24 to 30 issues, ideally. Mm-hmm. But I think I'll be taking, after this first arc, I'm done drawing it, I'll probably take time for a couple months and just do nothing but script and then come back and pick up the art. So I'll probably always do skip months between every arc, probably a good 3 to 4 months in between.
Sure.
But then whenever I do release it, with the first arc, I basically called my shot, and I actually put out a calendar that actually has all of the dates, the dates for the first 5 issues when they actually get released. So that's what I would like to do with every arc from here on, is just basically call my shot, tell retailers and readers from the beginning, this is when it's going to release. Basically do it like, a season of television. So, no one's frustrated wondering when the next issue is going to come out. That's one of my favorite things about books like Paper Girls is you finish the book, and in the very last page of the book, it says, next issue comes out on this date. And, that's just really, really nice for me. And I'm going to try to do the same thing with Farmhand.
Yeah, kind of get that, have, like you were saying, plan it so far ahead so that there can be no serious production hiccups along the way.
Right.
So, Rob, something we ask everybody that comes on the show, what are you currently geeking out over?
What am I geeking out over? That's a really good question. Man, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Layman gave us the same answer both times he was on, which is to say Garden Warfare 2, Plants vs. Zombies.
Okay. No, I've been out of video games for a really long time. But my oldest son, he's 7, Aiden, we just got him a Nintendo Switch. Oh. And it freaking, like, I downloaded Sonic the Hedgehog Classics on his system a couple of nights ago. And I hadn't played it since he got it. So he went to bed, and I was like, okay, just give me your system. I'll go buy it. I'll download it, whatever. So he goes to bed, and I'm in my bedroom, like on the chair, just like downloading this thing. I was like, oh, I'll play it. I'll play test it. And I freaking had an incredible time. I mean, it was fantastic. And the entire system as a whole, I just keep thinking, like, how can I just take this from my son? And like, can I keep this? This is fantastic. I think maybe that's what I'm geeking out most about right now, because it's exactly what I would have loved as a kid. It's just a perfect little system.
Were you more Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo?
I was a Sega guy. Nintendo never worked out for me, man. I had a Nintendo, the original Nintendo, for like a week, and then a friend of mine brought over a cartridge, and it broke my system. Oh damn! like I had to do the thing where you had to blow into the cartridge.
Yeah, sure.
And try it and like pray it worked. It just never worked. So we jumped to the Sega like right after that.
Do you have any a particular favorite game on the old Genesis?
Oh God, what was I into? I was a pretty big Mortal Kombat guy. Um, God, what else?
I have to
Yeah.
ask. We tangent like some shit on this thing, but
Okay.
who is your favorite Mortal Kombat fighter?
Oh man, who was my favorite? I think I like different guys for different reasons. Like I liked Liu Kang because
He's
I
my
mean
favorite.
he's Liu Kang.
Yeah.
I mean he's essentially Bruce Lee.
Yep.
I like Sub-Zero because he's got the ice powers and it's just cool. He's just literally a cool character. It's Scorpion was another great one because he had the whole the harpoon and the come here and all that stuff. Yeah, those are probably my guys.
Right on. Yeah. Well, again, Farmhand, the first issue out in comic book stores everywhere and on Comixology on Wednesday, July 11th. Be sure to get, all 12 volumes of Chew. Or, while you're at it, get the Smorgasbord or, Omnivore editions. And I'm trying to remember, did they collect the New Day, the backups?
Yeah, actually, it's they just came out in the new WWE trade that Boom just put out. So yeah, it's all I think it was 20 pages got collected, and it actually reads really well. Because I mean, we didn't. My buddy Ross Thibodeau was the writer on it, a really gifted screenwriter, and we went into this as complete geeks because we just in addition to comics, we're pretty big wrestling fans. So I actually approached Boom like, hey, I want to do a New Day. They're like, okay, cool. So we pitched them the time travel thing, and they were all about it. So, but the way we did it was basically like as 2 to 3 page stories, like shorts in the back of every issue. So we had actually, never read everything together. So when they collected it, surprisingly, thankfully, it all read really well together.
So yeah, check that out too. And Rob, thanks again for coming on the show, man.
No, thanks for having me, man.
Pleasant chat.
As always.
Yeah.
Yes. So, what you gents get into over this past week?
Well, as teased in the opening of the show, I had a trip to the city of sin, the city of Las Vegas. I almost slipped up and said Angeles, and I was like, no, that's not where I went.
That's the city of angels.
Yeah.
But not really.
But yes, I ventured out into Las Vegas for the first time in my life, something that has been on my bucket list for probably about 10 years, at the very least, for as long as I've been legally able to gamble and or drink, which is about the same age since it's a casino floor. 21. So it's something that I've wanted to do for a while. Finally got a chance to do it. A friend of mine, and I think a friend of some of us here at the show, Betty, it was her birthday. It was her birthday. 21st, I'm sure. Yeah. Someone did wish her a happy 21st birthday while we were there, so that's good enough for me. But it was her birthday. It was the last year of the Vans Warped Tour, so she was like, for my birthday, I want to go to wherever the Vans Warped Tour is on my birthday. Turns out that was Salt Lake City, and she was like, well, that'll be cool because, it's Vans Warped Tour for my birthday. But then her husband, Mike, was like, but the day before, it's going to be in Vegas. And she was like, oh, hell yeah, let's do that.
Cheaper flight, cheaper hotels.
Yeah, and more fun to do around.
Oh, that too, yeah.
Yeah.
You can actually drink, caffeinated beverages.
Yeah. Salt Lake City, I hear, is very beautiful, but Las Vegas is very fun, especially since we wanted to spend the whole weekend there, not just like the one day of Warped Tour.
Yes.
So that's what we did. We flew in on Thursday. Warped Tour was Friday, and we left Sunday. And we spent all of those days there. Like literally, we flew in Thursday morning. They were still serving breakfast at McDonald's by the time we landed, and the sun was going down by the time we took off on the plane on Sunday. So what is that? 4 full days of Las Vegas fun.
All on the Strip?
For the most part, yeah. We didn't venture out too much. At one point, we heard that Frank Miller was doing a signing at a local comic shop, and we were like, oh, oh, let's go chickadee check that out, because Frank Miller is from the group essentially the mutual, like, we all know who he is. And
he's
we
one
all
of our
have at
patron
least
saints.
Yeah, exactly. And we all know at least one comic book that he's done that we would like to get signed. We get there, and it's a much bigger event than we were expecting. I mean, it's Frank Miller, so I guess we should have expected it to be a pretty big event. But like, there was a long wait list. He was off on lunch, so we didn't even get a chance to see him while we were there. But it was a long wait list, and it was like $100 autograph, and we were like, as cool as it would be to get an autograph from Frank Miller, that's a little too much for something that we weren't planning on getting.
Do you know if there was like like rules to it, like it was a certain thing he was signing, or if it was like whatever you had?
As far as I'm aware, it was anything you had. Like,
cool.
he was hawking the DK3 trade.
Okay, and he also has the Xerxes book out right now.
Sure.
The single issue thing.
Yeah.
Just to put out there.
Yeah. But yeah, so unfortunately, because of how long the wait was, like, we didn't have that much free time to wait, and the $100 tab for it, we were like, we have to sit this one out, boys.
I would have left you guys and gone to it if I was there.
I'm
just telling you. I'm just telling you that right now.
You're also not the biggest fan of Vegas.
No, I don't like Vegas whatsoever.
Yeah, you would have stayed there. The
Yeah, I
whole
should have
weekend.
been there. Yeah,
I don't. Jake. The last time I was in Vegas was with Jake, and we kind of reached the consensus that, like, I don't know how people do like more than like 3 days.
Yeah, no. On the last day, I was like, I'm done. Yeah. Like it affected my mood. Like, I was still enjoying, like, being around my friends and stuff like that, but I was like, I don't want to step foot in another casino, and
It's dead.
Yeah. Like, I liked Las Vegas as a whole, but I'm not that big into gambling, and several of the people that were on the trip were, so they were always like, let's go to the casino, and like, there was no, like, set itinerary. No one had to stay with the group. Everyone was more than welcome to do, like, their own thing. But, like, at the same time, like, I just got a new job, so I don't have that much money, so I can't just go wander around and, like, I'll just go buy things. So I stayed pretty close to the group.
Everything's pretty pricey in Vegas.
That too.
Oh, shit. I remember we got, like, Chinese food at, like, a food court.
And it was like $15 to $20.
And I was like,
average.
I want white rice with it, like, because it was just the, like, cashew chicken, whatever the hell I got, and it was like almost $30.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah,
like, almost $30 with the drink, the side, and the meal.
You pay for all of your sides.
Yeah.
Your entree is the price of the meal here, and then you have to pay for your sides.
Yeah.
I forgot about that detail for you.
Well, granted, also, like, Sam and I weren't in the best mood because, like, we had all this luggage and, like,
the lockers happened to be broken in McCarran that day.
Oh, hey, I guess that's probably the airport. I was about to be like, oh, that's the airport I went to.
And then we went to the.
It makes sense because it's like the Las Vegas airport. It's not like here where we have 3.
Yeah.
I was like running on fumes because, like, my back was so sore. This massive backpack. And I was like walking around. I was like, this place sucks.
That was our first San Diego too, so we didn't know that, like, you can get any book you want for free, but that means you have to carry it.
Well, because we were like, oh, we'll just put our shit in lockers and then be good to go. We missed Beatles Cirque du Soleil. Remember, we were like, maybe we can go catch a show of that.
Love.
And then
I threw out all my underpants.
You did, yep, in public. And then that was at the airport though. And then
that's normal.
Yeah,
in San Diego.
And then my last, like, bit of any, like, happiness left. There's a Venetian store mask, and I was like, oh, cool. And I walked in, and I was like, do you guys have the Venetian mask that Tom Cruise wore in Eyes Wide Shut? And they were like, no. And I was like, thank you for your time. And I just, like, walked out. I was like, fuck this place.
Service.
Well, like, we did the big
Caesar's Palace. We did the
Ferris
entire
wheel.
the
Ferris wheel.
Vegas Eye, yeah.
Oh, that was one thing. That was one thing that we thought about doing that we never did.
I mean, that was cool, and it was like dead. Like, nobody was there. And then we went to some restaurant, and remember, it took forever to get, like, just a drink. And it was dead. It wasn't busy.
We were at the Venetian.
Was that
everything? All meals.
Oh my goodness,
took forever. Like, I think it's a thing that I heard a lot when I was living in, like, New York. Is like, like, when you go, the further south you go, the slower everything gets. And, like, I think just, like, even though it's Vegas, like, that's something that holds true. And we're far enough north of it that we're used to, like, faster service. And, like, they're just like, nah, man, it's Vegas.
The trick to Vegas, honestly, is to do it like an old person, in that you only do, like, penny slots because they're, like, the cheapest things to gamble on, and you stick to the buffets.
And then we got in the cab, and the guy was like, Remember, like, didn't someone try to cut in front of us?
Well, and I just like very discreetly like cussed them out.
Yeah, and then
she tried to like her and her husband tried to
it
angle
was like
in
a
front.
huge line to get a cab.
And I just kind of like looked at both of them and said, "The fuck you think you're doing?" And they immediately went back and was like, "We'll take the next one."
And then we got in the cab, and the guy was like, "Where are you going?" We're like, "The airport." He's like, "How do you want to get there?" We're like, "The fucking airport." I was like, "I'm not from Vegas, man. There's no Venetian mask from Oswald. Shut up, pissed."
I pulled the GPS. I was like, "This way."
Yeah.
But
you had a good time.
I did. We spent a lot of time in the we were at the Mandalay Bay. We spent a lot of time in the pool resort because it wasn't just a pool like in most hotels that I'm used to, but it was lagoons, multiple lagoons.
It's like Playboy Mansion.
A lazy river. That's a grotto, but I'm sure they have lagoons too.
The fuck do I care? Just keep going.
I've never been there. They had a wave pool. And they had an adults only section, which like we never ended up going to, but there were advertisements everywhere that it was like toptional, as in tops optional, a portmanteau. And there was a bar, but there was also a bar in the regular pool. So we were like, man, we just want to float around the lazy river. I don't think they have a lazy river at the adults section. It's a small box.
Full of semen.
Yeah, probably. I see what you did there, though. But and then so when we weren't there, we were either at a casino or eating. Lots of food to be had. Went to the Twin Peaks restaurant, which me being me was very upset to find out that Twin Peaks was not a reference to the TV show Twin Peaks, but the Breasts of a Woman Twin Peaks. And I was like, oh, this is just like a Hooters knockoff. I wanted references to, damn fine coffee
and pie.
And pie. And, the owls are not what they seem, which would be perfect as a way to join together because Hooters, owls, come on, the owls are not what they, come on. Do I have to do marketing for all these restaurants? I'm not going to. But
they pay well.
If they did, I might consider. But going along with it taking forever to get drinks, we sat down, ordered Vegas bombs, which is essentially a what's the word? I don't know. I mean, it's a bomb. It's a drink. Whatever. Look it up, kids. We get that in relatively timely fashion. Mike also orders an old fashioned, which he never received. After like 10 minutes, the bartender comes over and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I know I'm forgetting something. We just got slammed." And like all of us looked around. We've all worked at a bar at some point. And we're like, "This is slammed? There's like 5 people here, and you have a second bartender."
And it's Vegas.
Yeah. But so Mike ended up canceling his order, and we just left after paying for those drinks. What else did we do? There was a Taco Bell that had alcoholic beverages. They had an alcoholic Baja Blast frozen
like a daiquiri
drink.
thing.
Yeah, a daiquiri. Thank you.
I think it's called a grotto.
Fuck do I care?
I'll just keep fucking going. But yeah, and other fun stuff. There's I'm glad that the mic picked that up, Jake.
Me too.
Me too.
But yeah, so that was fun. Got to see a couple people have a breakdown. No fights, which was awkward. But that's a weird story about trying to jumping on to a trip at the last minute and then trying to control it with a whole bunch of people that don't want to make plans for their weekend. That was awkward. But thankfully, we weren't all staying in one big room, and we never saw that person again that weekend.
They died.
They could have died.
They died.
Buried in the desert somewhere.
No, they went to go meet Frank Miller.
Yeah.
The Warp Tour was
Fuck
fun.
this. I'm going to get Frank Miller's autograph.
Yeah. The Warp Tour was fun. I got to see Real Big Fish. That was the highlight for me that day.
They have horns.
Yes. A trombone.
Yeah.
I actually got into a circle pit, too. Ran around in a circle. It was fun. It was the first time I'd ever gotten into a pit because I was like, nah, I'm too big.
They're all probably like, this giant man's going to fucking kill me.
That's
running for their lives. That's why
I
did
didn't...
trombone.
That's It's the Mighty Mighty Boss Toads. Right. Sell out with me, oh yeah, sell out with me, oh night. Record company's gonna give me lots of money, and that was the song that I.
All right.
But yeah, and Simple Plan was there. That was fun. 303. The Used, but I didn't care for The Used, so I walked away.
I don't care much. I've actually seen The Used. I saw The Used in high school.
Huh? They probably sounded better.
Probably.
Anyway, so yeah, that was me in Vegas in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Jake, what did you get up to this week?
I watched the first season of Preacher.
In a concentrated dose.
It's 10 episodes. I started it yesterday and I finished it 2-3 hours ago, and it blew my fucking mind. Because many years ago, I started reading Preacher the book. And like most things in life, I didn't finish it. Not because I didn't like it. I just stopped reading it because I can't finish anything in my life. And so I finished like issue 14 or 15, and I just kind of went off doing other things. And I saw a promo for season 3 yesterday. Like right during... No, maybe the day before. And it was just this great fucking trailer. It looked insane. And I think the soundtrack in the background was just like, either you're dead or I'm dead, like over and over again. And I was like, I got to just dive into this. Because I had, through Vudu, they had the first episode free or whatever one time. I was like, I'll get it and I'll just, check it out. And even with that, I couldn't finish it. Because, like, again, I can't finish fucking anything.
I didn't see at least I didn't even start. I own it.
Yeah.
Because I was really drunk on St. Patrick's Day, and because, I guess... because of Cassidy, they're just like, it's $10 for the first season. I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
And then I never watched it.
Yeah, it's not the worst drunk purchase you've ever made.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm finally going to fucking dive into this thing. And I'm glad I did, because it is like the most insane thing I've seen on TV. Like it's so violent. It's so over the top ridiculous. It's still like there's super moments of serious and tragedy and horrible nasty things and religion, and then it's also fucking hilarious, man. Like it is so fucking
Twisted Mind of Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
It is so fucking funny. I was just like, there's this scene I posted on Instagram and I couldn't stop watching. There's two, but there was one I couldn't stop watching. Like I seriously watched it like fucking for like couple minutes straight, and it lasts like 5 seconds, where Jesse Custer, the preacher, walks to the door and he knocks on the door, and this kid answers and he's like, "Is your mom home?" And he says, "She's pooping." Like, so just like a normal kid would, that he's annoyed he has to answer the door. And then what you don't see in the thing I posted on Instagram is like she kind of likes Jesse Custer, and she walks up like zipping her pants with the toilet flushing, and the look on her face is just horror as Jesse Custer's standing there. But yeah, it's pretty ridiculous, man. It's on Hulu streaming. If you have Hulu, the first 2 seasons, that's how I watched it. But I would buy that shit too, because
I think it's currently on sale, like the bundle and save shit. Holy
shit, man. If you've read the entire comic, unlike me, and actually finished something in your life, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, because there's a lot of stuff that like it's got the feel of Preacher, but it's got the characters there, but there's a lot of different differences going on. But I think some really clever stuff they do with it, and dealing with the Saint of Killers. Like, I think my 2 favorite episodes were episode 6 and episode 9, and there's a moment in episode 9. There's a big reveal of where somebody is, and what it means. That's fucking insane. Arseface, out of control good. Like, holy shit. And his they call him Eugene on the show, but his introduction is hilarious, because it's almost played like it's a scare, like a jump scare, and then he's subtitled like he is in the book. It doesn't pull any punches, man. And also, like, this show has fucking balls. Like, it's doing stuff that like most shows you'd watch, you'd be like, all right, here's the setup, and it's not going to do it, because then the show would be weird and insane, and how could it fix it? And the show's like, fuck you. That's why. We're just going by the seat of our pants here. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to see Cassidy, Tulip, and Jesse Custer, kicking ass and taking names. And
right off into the sunset.
And you get that, and it gets there too, man. It's so good. I highly recommend it. Because I've been on a drought watching TV shows. Like I've been rewatching a lot of stuff I love. But I haven't been like, there's occasional Netflix documentary or like mini thing like the Evil Genius and other stuff like that. That's like, really quick, but I hadn't really like latched onto a show, and I'm glad I did because season 3 is going on right now, and season 2 is 13 episodes, so it'll take a little bit longer. But I was watching just the premiere of season 2 right before I came over here, and it starts off, and it's just like the most fun you can have watching a TV show. It's just fucking so damn good. Highly recommended.
I know a friend of the show, David Brothers, was all about it.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know beyond the first season if he kept up with it, but
Okay.
I remember he was really digging the first one.
It's too bad because we just chatted with him and I hadn't watched a single episode. Damn.
Despicable.
Me
too.
Let's have another chat.
Mm.
But yeah, I love the hell out of it. Like, yeah, that's good. Quite good. Yeah. Very good.
I saw Tag.
Did you laugh when she goes, "I wish I brought my gun. There's so many good birds to shoot."
I did.
Yeah.
You were spot on that it was like a perfect movie for me.
It's and I feel like I've been thinking about it a little bit more, especially when I know that you had seen it. You told us yesterday, whatever you saw it, and I was like thinking back, and I was like, I fucking really did enjoy that movie, man. Like I really did. It's just so like a perfect escapism movie to watch.
It really embodied that like childlike glee of just doing something stupid with your friends, and just now having the money to be ridiculous about it, like going cross country just to tag your friend.
Yeah.
Or having ridiculous disguise. I mean, the movie starts with Ed Helms getting a job as a janitor.
That's so good.
At John Hamm's company, insurance company. He's getting a job as a janitor just so he can infiltrate.
Yeah, I guess at first you're like, what's going on? And then it's the reveal that it's the company where he's John Hamm's at, and you're like, oh shit. Also, I don't know if you remember or you were looking for it this time, because we were talking about the CG arm cast thing. Was Jeremy Renner like in a jacket the entire movie? I feel like you never see his arms.
He was in a jacket the entire movie.
Because then at the wedding, obviously he's in the tux and everything.
But it didn't. I had forgotten that you said that, and it did
Sam
not.
was the one who brought it up.
That's true.
I blindly followed along. That.
Fair.
Yes, okay, that's the thing.
But no, didn't notice it.
Yeah,
even though I had foreknowledge of it.
Mm-hmm. No, my thing was just like, I was trying to think back. I was like, I don't think you ever actually see the skin of his arms in that entire movie.
Never.
Interesting.
Just the skin of his eyes.
What? I mean, I guess, do eyes have skin?
Yeah.
I would call. I know what I would refer to as the skin.
It's mostly lipid tissue, but
the lipid.
Yes.
Hey, asshole! Netflix just greenlit an Ultraman CGI series for next year.
Oh, Boom. I'll probably watch it 3 years down the line and never finish it.
Masters of the Universe is greenlit for a remake.
That's been greenlit for a long time.
But like I think, or maybe it's not that it got greenlit. Maybe it's because they got a writer or director, David S. Goyer, writing it.
They
I know that
originally it was McGee.
I mean, probably still be better than the Dolph Lundgren one, but
I love that genuine reaction.
You know that one thing McGee did that blew my fucking mind that I didn't know until I finished watching was that movie The Babysitter. Remember that? Did you ever watch that on Netflix?
No.
Oh, you would love it.
Wait, yes, the horror movie.
Yeah, with Samara Weaving.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, it was so fucking good.
It's so
sorry.
Fucking
I thought for a hot second I thought you were referring to the Chaperone with Triple H.
No. Also,
that would have been. I would have been surprised.
No.
Actually, you know what? That makes more sense than him doing The Babysitter.
The less known about The Babysitter, though, the better. I told one of my friends to watch it once, and I was like, "Just watch it. Just trust me. Don't watch the Netflix thing. Just watch it."
No, there's a hot chick in it.
Whose uncle is Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. That's that.
Sam, you get into anything?
Fucked. This has been another installment of Catching Up. Hey, I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
Me. Thank you very much.
Good night, Eric Bana.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.